it's crazy. Then you start thinking about, like, how many more there are in that nation, and then not only in Romania, but then you think about, like, spread out to the rest of Europe, and it's just, like,
yeah, man,
so many different things that you could do. I mean, your work really never stops if you think about it.
Do you ever think, like, you're sitting, like, in your bed or something, like, about to go to bed, and you're like, yo, somebody on the other side of the world is getting up to go to work right now?
Yeah, I've thought about that. Like, or somebody's, or you're, like, working, and you're like, that dude's about to go to sleep.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Like, it kind of opens your mind. Like, right now in Romania, it's, like, 7:30 in the morning. Like,
just how big the entire, like, and really, it's not big at all. Like, we are a very tiny planet, you know? But it's huge compared to, like,
me.
What, like, because most people in, like, middle America won't leave a 50-mile radius of where they grew up.
Right.
And the Earth is so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
And then you think even bigger, and it's like, yo, the Earth is really small.
And then
Have you seen those of
like,
the suns? Yes, dude.
Ridiculous.
It is
because
insane.
Our sun is, like, I don't even know. I can't. The Earth was a golf ball.
You can fit 1 million Earths in the sun, or some weird
nuts.
number.
And then the amount of suns you could fit in, like, some of the other suns, it's just.
No, it's nuts, dude. It's nuts.
My mother has just informed me that the Earth is flat.
The Earth is actually flat. Did you know that?
To you flat earthers, we're not actually hating on you. We don't want you to send your posse after us. We're just kidding.
Isn't like
I don't really care.
Russell Westbrook a flat earther or something like that?
Russell Westbrook could be a flat earther.
Honestly, dude, that dude's a good.
I think Russell Westbrook also.
Do you subscribe to any conspiracy theories?
I mean, depending on. I mean, loosely, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, the moon landing was fake.
My only and you know this. My only thing with the moon landing was the flag.
The flag is interesting.
And I actually was curious, so I did my due diligence and did some research on it from some reputable sources, not just like Wikipedia, but
Wikipedia is actually becoming more reputable, but continue.
Okay. So, allegedly, if you know anything about it's actually like the flag waving thing is you could actually argue that it's a case that we did go to the moon. And here's why. There's no wind in space, right?
Right.
But the laws of the laws of physics regarding momentum still apply.
Right.
So when they stuck that, which basically means there's an equal and opposite reaction, and there's an action and reaction. There's always forces going in equal and opposite directions. So if you put something in action, there has to be another force that stops that. So when they stuck the flag in the ground, the vibrations from that and the forces from that were flowing through the flag. And it wasn't like it was waving, it was like shaking, like this. Okay. So that was, and there wasn't enough air resistance. There's not any oxygen there to stop it.
Yeah.
So it was just doing that. So that's sort of a law of momentum thing.
Right. I'm just saying that, like, if it came out, like, if they came out later and said, nah, we faked it, I would just be like, oh, okay. But I'm not, like, some crazy dude that's like, like, I'm not going to dig into it.
I don't know.
I don't really care. I'm going to be honest.
That was my, and you know that was my only concern with it, was the flag. Now, I think, was it Buzz Aldridge was like, yo, if you don't think that we went to the moon, like, you're an idiot.
Probably.
You know? Like people died for that, you know?
Which, I mean, is also a valid point, I guess, but
yeah,
I don't know. People are, I mean, they could do it. It doesn't, honestly, I don't really care. It doesn't mess with my every day-to-day kind of.
I wish you would have watched that documentary.
I just kept forgetting, and it was also yesterday.
So for those of you who don't know, there's a new and I've been keeping up with Jeremy Corbell, Jeremy Campbell or Jeremy Corbell. It's Jeremy Corbell. Okay, this guy's sort of like a nuanced filmmaker.
Right.
His film style, like his cinematography, is a little strange.
Okay.
But it's good. It's not like bad. It's just different and it's slower. But he does
like
documentaries. No, not at all. He does good work, and you can really tell that he does a lot of research, and he calls a lot of people. He does everything he can. Anyway, so Bob Lazar, and if you're older, you probably will remember who Bob Lazar is. But basically, in like the late '80s, early '90s, it might have been even earlier than that. I think it could be earlier. Basically, probably from late 70s to early 90s, this whole time period. This guy came out to George Knapp, which was an investigative journalist. Big name back then. And he basically said, yo, I worked at a classified military compound south of Area 51 called S4, which is their compound there. And basically, I was reverse engineering alien spacecraft for the U.S. government. And I saw these craft, I worked on these crafts, and we even discovered a new element that they called Element 115 that was the fuel source of these crafts. And so he comes out with this during the time period, and everyone's like, yeah, right. But that's what started, nobody knew what Area 51 was back then until Bob Lazar. This is the story that started everything. This is when, there was literally nobody even living out there. Now, if you go out to Area 51, now, I mean, it's a tourist attraction. All the restaurants, the hotels, everything is based around, aliens in Area 51. That wasn't there until Bob Lazar told his story and everyone started a movement. Okay, so he comes out and goes in front of he's on the talk shows back at the time. I mean, he's on radio, he's on the news, and he's basically telling his story. I was working on these craft, and he was describing the craft. He was like, they are basically manipulating gravity in such a way that they don't. Of course, if you know anything about propulsed craft, it goes back to momentum. You have to be throwing some matter the opposite direction of your path in order to move. Whether it's air, whether it's high-speed exhaust, whether it's water, whatever. This craft was anti-gravity, basically. I mean, it was manipulating gravity in such a way, it was warping space-time so that it could be, accelerated forward. And so, when you're not limited to, your only resistance is from air. When you're using gravity, because it's not matter, it's a wave. I mean, it's not even a particle. They disproved that. It's a wave. I mean, it's a natural phenomenon. So they were running on this fuel basically to keep their version of a computer updated, and they were basically just riding this gravity wave. And so, Jeremy Corbell has a bunch of movies out, this filmmaker. One's about Skinwalker Ranch, which is some ranch that they have out in the middle of nowhere that apparently is the hot spot for everything paranormal. They've had weird animal mutilations. I'm sure you've heard about that, but weird stuff that's kind of iffy to explain. And anyway, so he's this filmmaker, and he made this movie, this documentary on Netflix, and it's called Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers or whatever. Dude, and it is I'm not a believer in aliens. I think that's a little much. Relax. I think there's a compelling argument to be made that, well, the universe is so big, it's statistically probable for there to be something else out there. There might be. I'm not going to act like I know I have all the answers. I don't. But this documentary, man, it's very compelling.
Yeah.
Because, number one, the things that he described in the 80s have been, they've been proven right. And he hasn't wavered in his story 40 years later.
Right.
So one of the things that he described was when they would walk into the compound, they had these machines that would measure like the lengths of their bones in the fingers, and it's unique to every person. And everyone was like, "Yeah, he's just making that up. That's BS. That those machines don't work." Well, Jeremy Corbell called a bunch of people, did a bunch of research, and found somebody who was also working at a regular Air Force base at the same time. I mean, miles away. And sure enough, it was the machines that he was describing. And so that's one thing. The other thing, when he mentioned this element 115, 2012, some scientist in Germany like found this element. Yeah. Like they discovered the real element 151. Now, the way that sort of high level chemistry works is it doesn't exist naturally on Earth because our atmosphere doesn't allow it. So it only existed for like milliseconds here on Earth. Right. The certain neutrons that are made of this atom, they fell off because the atmosphere just wouldn't have it. Right. But it exists. It existed for, milliseconds. But they found it. And so that also corroborated with this guy's story, Bob Lazar's story. Yeah. And you listen to him talk, and I listen...
Think that would be why, like, maybe as soon as they enter our atmosphere, like, a lot of their craft would crash? Do you think because, like, maybe the fuel source just, like...
Yeah, no, it's totally possible. They get caught up in our atmosphere and their stuff doesn't work. I don't know. I will say this, man. Like, listening to him, and I'm the type of person that can generally tell if somebody's like full of crap. Like, generally, if it's somebody's like trying to sell you snake oil and is like, I have all the answers, I know everything, like. What I'm saying is absolutely right, and you can't say anything. Like, generally, when somebody is saying that, they're full of it. Right. And this guy's not. Like, he hasn't changed his story. You listen to him talk, and he's very believable. You don't think that he's like a con man. And the FBI, so as soon as he came out and started talking to this Jeremy Corbell guy, the FBI raided his house. Really? Like, days after. It's very weird. And he was working at a place before the S4 job. Yeah. And they tried looking up like his records of being there after all this stuff came out, and they were like, "No, we don't have any record of him being here, but there's pictures of him working here." They just deleted all the records of him ever existing. Wow. So it's very weird. And it raises some eyebrows like, yo, this has a lot of weight to it. Yeah. It's compelling. Now, me personally, and I know you as well, I mean, we're outspoken Christians. So it can get a little hairy. And gosh, you remember when we were up in your room one night when everyone was over, and I was like, yo, y'all believe in aliens? Yeah. And me and Josh started talking, and then we were like, yo, if there's another, like, sentient form of being that has a soul, they would have to have their own. I mean, the Christ would have to like do what he did here on that planet.
His atonement.
Maybe it was for them too. Yeah, and it just happened here. I don't know all the answers, man. I don't think we're even meant to know that. I don't know. If we are, that's great. But
yeah, whatever. It's also. It's not. Necessary. I don't know.
We don't even know
if it was like revealed. Like at some point, somebody did find, aliens.
Yeah,
I don't know, that'd be interesting.
And then it raises the question: okay, there are intelligent species. Do they even have souls? Yeah. Would they even need? Would they even need like?
That's interesting. What if they were all like different forms of human? Like, what if they all just... Yeah. What if they weren't, like, green, like we think? What if they all, like, looked like us?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
just
they're just
farther
like
along.
They just had a different start. Like, their version of Earth or whatever they would call it is, like... Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's
I don't know.
Different. Like, the atmosphere and everything.
Yeah.
So then when they move over here, maybe they function off of... not oxygen, maybe their bodies are
adept to something else.
Dioxide or something,
yeah. Well, Yeah, it's weird. So this guy, he said that